Hey, how are you guys doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to discuss Metroid, and specifically 2D Metroid on the Switch. So the day that this video is going live will be Thanksgiving here in the United States where I live. And so I do, of course, want to say happy Thanksgiving to all of the fans and followers of Rule of Two Review who are from the United States and celebrating today. I hope you're having a great day and eating lots of food and drinking a lot of beer and watching 2 of the 3 football games that are happening today, because one, of course, got postponed, unfortunately, and all of that good stuff. It's a big, great celebration kind of day. And because of that, the video we're having today about Metroid isn't really about news or reporting on any new rumors or any of that stuff. This is just a video about speculation and conversation. So I want you to know that going into it here in the beginning. In case that isn't what you want, you might want to just turn away from the video. But if you're up for just literally what I tend to do, blabbing and talking about some ideas about 2D Metroid and what I think is probably going to be happening, then strap in, because maybe you'll like this video. So Metroid has been an elusive franchise on Nintendo home consoles for literally a full decade at this point. It was Metroid Other M in 2010 that the last Metroid game released on a console as a brand new game and a brand new entry. We did, of course, get, as we know, Metroid Prime Federation Force and Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS throughout the past couple of years. But again, those weren't home console new entry releases. One was a multiplayer-focused spin-off, the other was a remake of a classic Game Boy game. And while we are all sitting around waiting for news and information and gameplay from Metroid Prime 4, as well as the possibility of an announcement of a Metroid Prime Trilogy port to the Nintendo Switch, there is that other Metroid kind of game that we've all been wondering about, and that is classic 2D Metroid. Now, I've long said, and many of you guys know this, that Metroid Prime, the first-person game, is my favorite video game of all time of any franchise ever. However, even though that's my favorite game, I actually think that Metroid still shines the best in 2D, and I know that those ideas may seem to conflict with each other, but at the end of the day, that's just how I see it. I love classic 2D Metroid. Metroid Samus Returns, when that was announced and released in 2017, was an amazing surprise and an absolutely fantastic game. I think that game is damn near perfect for what it is and what it's trying to do. But again, even though that game almost is a new game because there's so much new and different to it compared to its original, it still is a remake. And it still is, a portable-only kind of game. Yes, games that are on the Switch also have a portable aspect to them, but it's still like a home console. We're playing on our TVs, we're playing on the go. That's the brilliance of the Switch and the hybrid nature. And so what a lot of us really want is to see Nintendo return to 2D Metroid in preferably a brand new game, not another port or a remake or anything, and release that on the Nintendo Switch so we get both a portable and a home console version of a new 2D Metroid experience. And now, one of the main reasons I even wanted to make this video and have this discussion with you guys today is the simple fact that I personally believe that a 2D Metroid is being developed from Nintendo behind the scenes and is on the way to us to release on the Switch sometime soon. Now, part of what also makes this tricky is that if you've been following me long enough to go back to 2019, I was discussing near the end of last year that I thought a 2D Metroid was very likely going to be releasing this year in 2020. But, as we all know, the pandemic situation that hit early in the year clearly changed a lot of whatever plans Nintendo might have had behind the scenes, evidenced by the whole Nintendo Direct thing and the new Super Mario Brothers thing, the Super Mario 3D All-Stars thing, and all of that stuff. It just seems like Nintendo clearly shifted the focus of what they were doing and maybe had to move a lot of their projects from this year potentially into next year. Granted, that's all theory and speculation, but I personally believe that. That's the way I've seen it play out this year, and I would think a lot of you guys maybe perceive it the same, and a lot of the comments on my videos throughout the years have basically said as much, so I do think a lot of people are on the same page that Nintendo had bigger plans for this year and had to change and adjust them because of the whole health situation. But that doesn't change the fact that I still believed in that 2D Metroid game, whether it was a port of Samus Returns or a brand new game or just like a Metroid 2D collection, remaster thing or whatever. I believed in a 2D Metroid release on the Switch this year, and I still think that that's happening, you guys. And if there's truth to the pandemic shifting things into next year like most of us believe, then I think a 2D Metroid game is probably one of those things. And I'm not 100% certain on what it could be because I am only putting pieces together in my own brain to believe this. I don't know this as an actual fact. I'll tell you guys, right then and there. So this could be a Samus Returns port. It could be a brand new 2D Metroid game like I'd prefer. But what's interesting is there have been a couple of rumors and seed planted over the past year that have made it sound like other people might know things behind the scenes, and they feel that, yeah, there is a 2D Metroid game being worked on. Now, obviously, the first and most notable was in the beginning of the year, in January of this year, 2020. There was a tweet and some posts made by, Sabi, who is no longer around. There's a bit of drama and mysteriousness behind that person, and they disappeared and people got mad at them and all this different stuff, and so hard to comment on any of that stuff. But this is just a thing that happened in January this year where they posted these tweets, first talking about a new Paper Mario game is coming for the Switch later this year, which did turn out to be true, and then also the fact that there's going to be a 2D Metroid game related to Metroid Fusion also releasing this year. So those are two bold claims made by somebody who's leaked and broken some things in the past, had a decent track record. Some things have been true, some things have not been. And it turns out that of those two predictions this year, one of them already came true because we did get Paper Mario the Origami King released in July. And so that had a lot of us laser focused on the other rumor that they broke at the same time, which was this Metroid Fusion sequel spin-off, remaster or whatever, that they think was supposed to release in 2020. Now, obviously for me, at the time that this happened in January, I believed the Metroid 2D Fusion thing solely because I already predicted a 2D Metroid game would release in 2020. Then, on top of that, you fast forward 7 months, and even though the pandemic hit and changed everything, we still got that Paper Mario game releasing, which means there's a really good chance that Sabi definitely did know something behind the scenes and was aware of the Paper Mario game, and so if they're claiming there's a 2D Metroid Fusion game also coming, there's even more reason to believe that that could be true. It's not a lock. I'm not saying it's factually true, but it felt right to me at the time, and it feels even more right now because Paper Mario did eventually release. Now, something else that happened literally in the past few weeks is also incredibly interesting and worth talking about. And this is something I was not aware of. This did not do the news rounds, and it didn't even come across my desk here as this super huge Metroid fan YouTube channel. But my good buddy Andre's Restart, who runs his own channel and podcast, great Nintendo content. I was on his podcast this past week, and we discussed this. He's the one who made me aware of a Reset Era forum post, and I know Reset Era, a lot of people, we write it off, and I get it. I don't put all the stock in the world in it, but sometimes things that come from Reset Era have turned out to have merit. And Andres pointed out to me that on November 9th, and you can see right here, somebody named Zippo, who's also broken some leaks and scoops over the years, some true, some not true, made this statement right here. Again, this is only like 2 weeks ago, where they say MercurySteam's new Metroid should be or is close to completion. No idea when it's being announced, but the Game Awards maybe? And so that's a thing that happened. And granted, anyone can put anything on the internet, and it only has as much power as we give it. But I cover Metroid stuff. I love these Metroid rumors and scoops and leaks and things, even if they don't turn out to be true. And again, Zippo, just like Sabi, has been true with some things they've talked about in the past. And so here we are, like I said in the beginning, just speculating and commenting and conversing about this stuff just for the sake of doing it, because it's a holiday and it's interesting. And so Zippo making this statement about a MercurySteam Metroid game coming to the Switch and potentially being close to done is very, very interesting to me. And so now the fun part about this is speculating on what could be happening. What could the future of a 2D Metroid game on the Nintendo Switch be? Well, you've already heard me tell you that I personally believe a 2D Metroid game is being planned for the Switch right now anyway. Then you throw in the Sabi rumor about some kind of Metroid Fusion game. Then you throw in the Zippo rumor about it being a MercurySteam title. And we could start to put together a picture of, some ideas of what it could be, right? For me, I've long said my preferred 2D Metroid game on the Switch would be a brand new game. Whether it's Metroid 5, whether it's Metroid Fusion 2, whether it's a completely different brand new game that isn't related to any of those, something like a MercurySteam title. I just want something new. However, If a Samus Returns HD port came over to the Switch, I would still be elated and very excited. If we got something like a remaster or even a remake of Metroid Fusion or Super Metroid, something like that, yeah, I would be very, very excited. Even if we got something like just a port collection, like here's just a straight port of Fusion, of Zero Mission, and, you know, Super Metroid or something like that, even though that's already available on the online thing. I mean, I would still like that. It would be the least exciting to me because I want something newer and fresher, but it would be something, and yeah, I would be excited. But I do have to say this MercurySteam concept is very interesting to me because, as you probably well know, MercurySteam was the team behind Samus Returns, the remake of the classic Game Boy Metroid 2. And as I already said, I think they did an absolutely outstanding job. It was a fantastic game. Like I said, even though it was a remake, it also almost felt like a brand new game because there was so much different, so much new and added. It was just a spectacular Metroid game, even though it released on the 3DS and people feel like it was not a good choice to release on that console, and that's up for debate in my opinion. But that aside, when it's just taken as its own game and its own release, I loved it. And so I believe in their ability to make great Metroid games, and specifically a great 2D Metroid game. It stands to reason that Nintendo might have been so happy with the final product that they would say, hey, we're willing to give you total creative freedom to just make your own brand new Metroid game, you know, 2D or not, I would think 2D, and release that on the Switch. Here you go. Here's everything you need. Let's do this. Make this new game. Why wouldn't Nintendo be willing to do that? Obviously, if they're trying to continue the Metroid sort of support, make another game on the Switch on top of Metroid Prime 4 that's now been delayed for who knows how long. MercurySteam, it just makes a lot of sense. Would they make a new game? Would they just be responsible for porting their own Samus Returns? I just don't know. I don't know. But I want to believe it's a new game. The Metroid Fusion related title from Sabi's tweet also has interesting merit because I think that could be something like a sequel, or it could be a spin-off. Or it could also be a remake of that game. You know, what if MercurySteam is just tasked with remaking Metroid Fusion? What if both rumors are true and they're related to each other, and it's that, you know, MercurySteam first remade Metroid 2 and then was tasked with remaking Metroid Fusion? And what if that was the game that Sabi was tweeting about? That could very likely be the case. But I'll go back to what I already said. I would be happier if it was a new game, even if it's related to Fusion. And I think you could make a Metroid 5, or you could make a Metroid Fusion 2, and those don't necessarily have to be the same thing, right? Sure, you could say that a sequel to Metroid Fusion, which was Metroid 4, would just be Metroid 5 by default, and I get that, that's kind of true. But I think that thematically and story-wise, it wouldn't be crazy for Nintendo to make a game called Metroid Fusion 2, but not call it Metroid 5, and then wait and make Metroid 5 some other game down the road, you know? I mean, any one of those things could be possible, but I love the idea of some other continuation of the Fusion story with the SAX and all that stuff. There's just such great stuff. And there's even been some hints in some recent games about maybe continuing the story of the SAX gene. Like, there really is a possibility of Nintendo doing that. So the Fusion-related thing makes sense. Whether or not these tweets or Reset Era forum posts are true or not doesn't necessarily mean that the games aren't happening, right? They could be happening completely independent of these people knowing anything behind the scenes. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say there is that I just think that there's a great chance that Nintendo is making some kind of new 2D Metroid game. I feel like what we've seen with the announcement of Metroid Prime 4 and then the subsequent announcement of Metroid Samus Returns right after that presentation was over, and the fact that that game even released 3 months later in September of that year, shows me that Nintendo has been willing to believe in and support the Metroid franchise again. You know, way more than they've done the last couple of years, okay? Because Other M, I think it's a great game, but it came out in 2010, polarized people. A lot of people didn't like it. Metroid went dormant on consoles for a decade. Federation Force was another polarizing game, and while I like that game, it was a poor choice to make and release that game the way they did at the time that they did, when people were waiting for a Metroid game on the Wii U to more fully support the Wii U and show that it's a great console, and that stuff didn't happen. And so Federation Force rubbed people the wrong way, and I totally understand it. But then to come by a few years later and say, here's Metroid Prime 4 on the brand new Switch, here's Samus Returns on the 3DS, Samus is go time again, baby. That was big stuff. To me, that was Nintendo signaling that they care again, and they want to give another major push to the franchise and bring it back up to its former glory. And personally, as a Metroid superfan, I find that to be a great sign that Nintendo wants to continue doing stuff like that. And so, Samus Returns has now come and gone. That's great. It was a wonderful game. But what's next? Now we're waiting for Metroid Prime 4. We're waiting even longer because of the delay. Rumors about the Prime trilogy, which I think makes sense. But also, I would believe that Nintendo would continue with 2D Metroid development. Like, why wouldn't they announce Prime 4 and Samus Returns? Samus Returns comes out, Prime 4 continues development, gets restarted, yada yada. But with Samus Returns done, why wouldn't they have immediately decided to move right to another 2D Metroid game? They saw so much good press and buzz from all that Metroid stuff, and they know the Metroid fanbase is rabid, and it's great PR for them to continue supporting that franchise. And so I would believe that as soon as Samus Returns was done, they started working on another game. Which is also why, at the end of the day, it makes even more sense to believe MercurySteam might be making another game, because maybe Nintendo moved them right from Samus Returns right to another game. But the sky's the limit at this point. Any 2D Metroid game could be coming to us from any studio, MercurySteam or somebody else. It's all possible at this point. Not to mention, the last thing I should say at the end here, is it's possible that this isn't true. Like I said, this is conversational, this is speculation. My personal theories and predictions is that a 2D Metroid game is being made, but maybe it's not. We'll have to wait and see. I'm personally optimistic that it's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen next year in 2021. So these are my thoughts and theories and predictions about 2D Metroid on the Switch today. Tell me what you guys think. I do want to hear your thoughts on my thoughts, and then of course your own opinions and predictions. And I'll say one more time, Happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the United States. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks of course as always for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I will catch you next time on another video.